Hi there, today we're looking at completing the square to solve a quadratic equation where there is a coefficient of x squared bigger than 1. Alright, that's quite a mouthful, but essentially we'll go through an example so you understand. So if there is a number in front of x squared and you are trying to complete the square, it causes a problem. Alright, so I'm going to put an example up so you can see what I mean. So here you can see you've got a 2 in front of the x squared, and if I've gone through the process of learning how to complete the square, you will know by now that obviously it's much easier if it's just an x squared rather than having to deal with the 2. So if you've got to do 2 in front, then you've got to divide by it, get rid of it essentially. But there's 2 ways of doing it. So this is the first way, and then I'm going to look at a second way over here. All right, so when I divide by 2, I'm going to this time divide everything by 2. Okay, so literally everything. So divide that by 2, that by 2, that by 2, and that by 2. As long as I do the same thing to everything, then my equation should remain equal. All right, and that's what I'm really trying to achieve. So on the next step, like I said, divide everything by 2, and then what you've got from here, you've got 2x squared divided by 2, which is x squared. But the 12x divided by 2 is 6x, and then a minus 5 divided by 2 is minus 2.5. All right, so that's our first step. Now we've just got x squared on its own, we can now look to complete the square. All right, so it's all about this 6. So what to look to do is half this value of 6, which is going to give you 3. All right. Then consider the fact this if I was going to expand this as a double bracket, that would be 3 squared, which would give you 9, which I don't have as part of this, so I need to take it away. And then I've got the minus 2.5 tagged onto the end. All right. Let's simplify this bit. So the minus 9 minus 2.5 to give us minus 11.5, and then at this point, this is about rearranging. So we're going to take the minus 11.5 to the other side, and becomes plus over here. We then look to square root because of this square. So we're going to square root the 11.5 because of the square here. And that's going to give us a square root of 11.5, but of course it could be plus or minus. 2 different options when we square root. And then we are then going to take away the 3 from that. So you see the minus 3 comes, plus 3 comes this side, becomes a minus, and it's just put in front this time. So minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 11.5. And because it said 3 decimal places, we're going to put that in our calculator. So minus 3 plus 11.5 square root, and then minus 3 minus square root of 11.5, and it's going to give these 2 solutions. Okay, right, so that's the first way of doing it. The second way of doing it, and this is the same thing, so arguably the numbers at the bottom is going to be the same, but when rather than dividing everything by 2, we consider the fact that this is 5, and maybe we don't want to divide that by 2. So what we'll do is we'll just factorize these 2. All right, take 2 outside the bracket. Okay, so there's no way I can just think, oh, I'm just going to divide these 2 by 2. That doesn't work. You've got to commit to everything. Or if I am going to just divide these by 2, then I can't really do that, but I can factorize it, and that means take 2 out of the bracket. Okay, so we'll see that here. So you've got 2 outside the bracket, and then x squared plus 6x inside the bracket. Take away 5. All right, you can complete the square of this inside of this bracket. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do x plus 3 squared, because 3 is half of the 6. And then because we do 3 squared, that's going to need to take away the 9. All right, and you'll see from over this bit here, it's exactly the same bit over here when we complete the squared for these 2 bits over here. It's exactly the same thing. And then it's slightly different in I've got the 2 here and the minus 5 there. All right, so we've got this bit inside the bracket, all this bit inside the bracket, with the 2 outside. All right, so we're now literally going to try and expand this and try and consider what we're going to do with this 2. All right, so we're going to do 2 lots of the x plus 3 squared. All right, so that's that bit. You're going to take away now 2 lots of 9, which is 18, which will give you minus 5. All right, well, let's sort this minus 18 and minus 5 out. Okay, so that's going to give us 2 lots of x squared plus, 2 lots of x plus 3 squared equals minus 23, which has now been taken to the side and becomes equals 23. All right, so 2 steps being done there. So you can see that's minus 23. Then move it across, it comes plus 23 over here. Now, because of this 2, then we divide by 2. And that's gives us x plus 3 squared on its own equals 11.5. And then you'll notice now this is exactly the same as this over here. All right, so the remaining steps from here to here will be the same. All right, so I'm going to square root it. I'm going to take away 3 from both sides, and then from there, we're obviously going to give the same 2 solutions. All right, so it's like 2 different approaches to doing exactly the same thing. All right, the one on the left-hand side is all about dividing everything by 2, which is probably the most straightforward one, and the reason being is you don't have to deal with lots and lots of fancy brackets. But the second one on the right-hand side is about factorising these 2. Okay, so it's your choice. Both work absolutely fine. And of course, you've got to decide which is most suitable to your skill set in terms of how you think you'll approach it in an exam. Okay, well, that's completing the square, or factorising and solving a quadratic by completing the square. If you need to obviously practice on it, then obviously go to maths-school.co.uk. There's loads of questions on there for you to practice. Thanks for listening.